am Will Bartley. I am the editor of Realtree.com, and I want to be a good trapper. I've been trapping a few years, really enjoy it, and learning a few things about it, but I'm definitely not an expert. But right here having a good time with my wife Michelle and my son Ants.
It's a bobcat! It's a bobcat! Yes! Yes, sirree!
Just a solid standard velocity 22, and keeps from tearing your fur all up. That's the kind of catch you want. That's the full pad catch, and she was fully committed to that trap. What I had was, you can even see the dirt hole right here. I dig that, your bait goes down in there, your trap's bedded right here in front of it. And so get her undone, shot her in the shoulder, don't have much blood, so this will be a good set to remake, and I would say the chances are really good of catching something else. So when I go to do a remake, my favorite trap, there's a lot of different ones, but I like a Bridger number 2 dogless for my predator trapping. It's got a big pan on it, there's a lot of room for them to step on, and it's just a good solid trap. They're not the most expensive trap out there, but they're kind of mid-priced, and you can buy them by the case, and they're pretty well tuned up. They're night latch and ready to go out of the box. But once I catch something, I'll kind of try to clean the springs and stuff out a little bit, and then I'll usually load it and snap it just to get some of the gunk out of it a little bit. And so that's what I'm going to do here. A lot of guys can cock these with their hands. It's a little bit easier to cock them with your feet, and you don't get snapped as bad. So this is just a groundhog trapping hammer. Got the little trowel on it, and a little deal where you can dig out a dirt hole, but I'm just going to clean this back out. You can see as I'm digging down in there, that's my wax dirt, and that's what'll we'll cook some of that later and show how it's made, but that's what keeps these traps firing when it's real wet like this and freezing and thawing and stuff. You hear that little click, that's your night latch. That's how you know your trap pan's level and it's ready to go. And whenever I dig it out, I dig actually a little trench right up here, and that just gives me room to ball that chain up and put some dirt on top of it. That way it's not getting in the way of the trap or the springs. I always anchor my earth anchor kind of offset from my dirt hole a little bit, but the biggest learning curve that I had to overcome, and I think a lot of new trappers do, is packing your dirt, or your mud in this case, down around your jaws of your trap. If a critter, a cat, but especially a coyote, if they step and they feel that trap at all, if it wiggles under them or anything, they're not going to commit to it. So pack that mud down in there so that that trap doesn't move whenever an animal is working that set. But you've also kind of got to be careful and not pack it too tight over the tops of your springs. So you pack it all around the jaws, and it's really just a matter of getting comfortable working around the trap. And you will get caught every now and then, and it doesn't feel great, but it's not too bad. So this is my wax dirt, and once I've got my pan cover, my wax paper set over that, I pour that wax dirt, and I put a pretty good little bit of it, and that's what the trap itself is actually covered with, because that dirt doesn't freeze. Even if it gets wet, it doesn't really turn to mud, and so the trap will fire really almost regardless of the conditions. It's a little bit of a hassle to make that dirt, but if you're trapping, we're in Kentucky, definitely here and anywhere farther south where your average winter is just really rainy and muddy, it's almost a necessity in my book. And then you take your sifter and just kind of camo it up a little bit. It's a lot easier obviously when your dirt's dry. And then I don't like to use a lot of guiding or anything. Camo that up better. really for coyotes, you just kind of, you're not really giving them a spot to avoid just so much as making it convenient for them to step right there as opposed to over here or over there. See, my backing here was just this little tuft of broom sedge, and my dirt hole is dug in at an angle up under it, so that when they come around behind it, the bait is at an angle to the ground. They've really got to get up in front of it and get their nose down to it to be able to get at that bait. And so that way, and I'll just redo it. It's already still pretty good hole. I'm not real big into a lot of scent control. I don't think really, no matter what you do, like, you're not going to beat the nose of a coyote. I've had them find these spots with a little bitty bit of bait in there 10 days after the fact. Like, there's nothing you're going to do that's going to block that. But the big thing that I do, I don't want the smell of my bait getting on my trap. So I do change my gloves. I use one set of gloves when I'm handling my trap and setting it, and then when I get ready to do bait, I use these. And you can do it barehanded. That bait's not something you really want on your hands. So what do you think, Ants? Wyoming relish or top dog?
Hellfire.
Well, Hellfire's the lure. We got plenty of lure, that bobcat. I think we'll put a little Wyoming relish on there. Go up here and get me a good little stick. Thank you, sir. Perfect. It doesn't take much. Probably there's enough down in there still. And definitely, you know, a lot of times you'll put some lure or some fox pea or something around that, but having that bobcat in here all night and with this big catch circle, like, that's all the scent that you're gonna need. And so I just put just a little bit of lure. It's just something to hold their attention on that dirt hole right over the top of the trap. Put it on that stick and just slide it down in there where they can't get it out easily enough. That's good to go. Those are our traps from this morning. So yeah, I think this bottoms right here looks like a pretty good area to set a few. What I do just to hold my snare up, and like I say, I'm not a snare expert, don't claim to be, don't use them a whole lot, but we've got this fence to work with here, and obviously these crossings are pretty prominent, so you gotta try anyway. So what I do is I fix me some wire up on the fence to actually act as my snare stand, and then I actually use my earth anchors, the same ones that I anchor my coyote traps out with, to anchor my snare off in the ground. So I'm gonna get this set up on here first. And so you get this little plastic stop here, and there's your snare cable. Obviously they come through, it catches them, and so I use this little bit of wire right here behind it, get my snare loop about where it needs to be, about the size of a basketball or a little bit smaller, about 10 inches. What you want for a coyote to run his nose through there, but his shoulders catch the snare, and that gets him. Whatever comes down that trail, we'll get rid of that snare. We set the line out yesterday, or I got the line out yesterday. We just had a big ice storm here 2 days ago. And so a lot of these traps, I had to put them out through the ice. It kept me from, identifying some of the spots that I would normally want to set traps, because I couldn't see any sign. I couldn't see any tracks or anything like that. The critters just really weren't moving much. And of course, they weren't punching through that ice. So a lot of those sets I had to set blind just based on terrain. But we did run the line this morning. We did catch a bobcat. Anytime you can catch a bobcat, no complaints there. But I got a couple more traps. We're gonna just look around, see if we see any fresh sign, and get a few more sets out. And I'm gonna be running this line for about the next week. So should catch some critters. And the bobcat we got this morning wasn't a real big one, but it's a pretty one. And we'll skin it up and get the fur put away, and yeah, just have a good time with it. So we got our bobcat this morning, and in Kentucky you've got to call and check your bobcats in just like you do a deer or a turkey. Your fur bearer regulations from one state to the next are different, but typically bobcats and your river otters too have a few more regulations around them. Like here in Kentucky, you can catch 5 bobcats per trapping license. I think with river otters it's 10. But to be able to sell these species or take them out of state, you got to have a CITES tag, and these tags are, you know, they're free. You just got to request them whenever they come in. But that's what these are. I've got a few other bobcats in the freezer, and so whenever I get ready to take them to the fur buyer or something, I'll have to put them in. And then to check in this bobcat from this morning, I'll request another one of these tags, and that way they're good and legal and ready to go. So, and then a lot of times the department will send an envelope, and you collect a tooth from the bottom jaw, and you send that off, and they age that. They actually really keep good track of their fur bearers, same as they do for deer and turkeys and everything else. So especially the bobcats and the river otters. So just another resource to manage and enjoy, and yeah, just kind of part of the process. So I'm gonna hang that cat up and get the skin off of it. Gets up here and gets around the blood and gets all fired up, and then his beeper gets him and he starts growling. Pretty nice little fur.